How many of you ever heard this phrase? I don't need to go to Mass on Sunday. I'm a pretty good person. Shoot, I haven't murdered anybody. That's probably the phrase you heard from me, right? I don't need to go to Mass on Sunday, or I don't need to go to confession. I'm a basically good person. Why would I need to go to Mass? Why do I need to go to confession? Right? Well, that's essentially what this wealthy man is saying to Jesus. Jesus, look, I kept all the commandments. I'm basically a good person. Right? What does Jesus do? Jesus exposes his one area of weakness. His one area of weakness. Jesus says, you lack one thing. Go, sell all of you have to the poor. Come, follow me. Sell all of your possessions. What happens to the wealthy man? His face drops and he walks away sad. This wealthy man, he was wealthy in the eyes of the world, but in the things that last forever, eternal things, he was very poor. He was wealthy in this world, but in the world to come, he walks away sad because he had many possessions, and those possessions were keeping him from entering into the kingdom of God. And so in our own lives, we too have to ask ourselves, is there anything in our lives that's keeping us from inheriting the kingdom of heaven, the kingdom of God? Anything in our lives. Maybe it's our possessions. Maybe we're holding too tightly onto our wealth. You see, if this rich man truly kept the first commandment, love the Lord your God, right? If he truly loved the Lord his God, he would recognize that everything is gift from God. And he wouldn't be holding so tightly onto his possessions. He said he kept all the commandments from his youth. Jesus is exposing the commandment that he's not keeping. He's holding too tightly. And so in our own lives, are we holding too tightly? Are we truly seeking after God? Are we truly seeking after God? This past couple weeks, I was up in Big Sur at the Camaldoli, a hermitage, beautiful. These monks have left everything, abandoned all their possessions, everything, to truly seek after God. And so in our lives, are we truly seeking after God? Or are we holding too tightly? Is there something in our lives that's keeping us from inheriting the kingdom of God? Yes, possessions in our story today. What about unforgiveness? What about unforgiveness? Maybe you need to forgive that person whose phone's just gone off. Maybe you need to forgive the person on the other end of the line for calling you during Mass. Unforgiveness can keep us from inheriting the kingdom of God. Have we forgiven everybody? Do we need to just let go of that thing that's keeping us from forgiving that person? What about a past mistake? Maybe there's a past mistake that we have done in our lives that is starting to define who we are. Are we holding too tightly to that past mistake, to past guilt, to past shame? Are we holding too tightly to a poor self-image instead of recognizing that we're all beloved children of God? What is it in our lives we're holding on too tightly that's keeping us from inheriting the kingdom of God? Story. You've probably heard this one before. It's one of my favorites. How do you catch a monkey? You guys know how to catch a monkey? No? You don't want to catch a monkey, so it doesn't really matter, right? In India, parts of Africa, the way they catch a monkey, they drill a hole in a coconut, right? They empty out the juice. They stick a fistful of peanuts inside the coconut. Now, the hole they drill in the coconut is just big enough for the monkey's hand to pass in to get to grab the peanuts. And then they tie the other end of the coconut off to a tree. And so the monkey comes along, and monkeys have trails just like you go out and you see cows on trails or goats or sheep or deer trails. Monkeys have trails, so they put this on the monkey trail. The monkey smells it, goes right towards that coconut because monkeys love peanuts, and sticks its hand into that coconut, grabs the peanuts, makes a fist. But when the monkey makes a fist, the hand can't come out of the coconut because the hole's not big enough. The monkey is sitting there with a fistful of peanuts and a coconut. And he's attached to that tree because the rope is attached to the coconut. And so the trapper just throws a net over him and catches the monkey. Why? Because the monkey was holding too tightly on those peanuts. All the monkey had to do was just let go of the peanuts. Right? The monkey loses his life because he's holding too tightly onto those peanuts. And the trapper, it's easy prey. In our own lives, what are we holding on too tightly to? What is it that we're holding too tightly to in our own lives? You see, that wealthy man was holding too tightly to his possessions, but there are things in all of our lives that we can be holding on too tightly to. One of the things sometimes we need to do, and all the time, is just let go and trust God, to seek after God's help. You see that wealthy man in today's gospel? What's the one thing he forgot to do? He says, Jesus, you're the good teacher. He knows Jesus is full of wisdom. All that wealthy man had to do was say, Jesus, it's hard for me to let go of my possessions. It's hard for me to trust fully in you. It's hard for me to let go of my life and give you my life. Jesus, help me. That's all he had to do. That's all he had to say. But he doesn't. What does he do? He walks away sad. In our own lives, we're going to walk away sad too if we're unable to give our lives fully to Jesus. We're going to walk away sad if we're holding too tightly onto things that keep us from the kingdom of God. All this wealthy man had to do was say, Jesus, I can't do it on my own. It's not possible. It's not possible. For humans, it's impossible. But with God's help, all things are possible. This wealthy man, he did what Judas did. He just gave up. Judas just gave up, right? Judas and Peter, they both did the same thing. They both betrayed Jesus. The difference is Judas gave up. Just like the wealthy man walks away sad. Peter, he recognized he needed God's help to forgive him. Peter didn't give up. My dear brothers and sisters, this is the message today about this wealthy man, is to persevere, as we heard in our first reading from the book of Wisdom, to seek after, to plead to God for all the things that are impossible for us to do in our lives, all the things that are impossible, to forgive someone, to forgive ourselves, to give up that poor self-image, all the things that are keeping us from inheriting the kingdom of God. God is there to help us. God is there to help us. All we have to do is but ask. But God, just ask. For us, it's impossible. But for God, all things are possible. It's just up to us to trust and believe in the power of God.